Hey, Marianne DeNovellis here. Welcome back to the Six Figure Mastermind. Today we're going to be talking about how to make changes to those contracts. So you've got a contract, but you want to know if it's a good fit. You want to know if it's a really nice contract, and maybe you already wrote it down. You're like, I forgot something. I've got to put a change in here, but it's already signed, sealed, and delivered. What do we do? So let's talk about how to go through and actually make changes to a contract. You probably could have guessed it's best to get it done before the contract gets delivered to your client. You want to go through it line by line and by line. One of my secret weapons to doing that, don't tell anybody. Tell everybody, I don't care. It's Google. Guys, use Google, look up contracts. You can go ahead and look at contracts online, pre-existing contracts for things that are relevant to what you're doing, whether you're a mentor or a speaker or a photographer or whatever kind of contracts you have. Most likely, there's already a contract out there for that. So go out, read up on the contracts, pull the things that you like from those things, and compile it in your own. You're totally allowed to do that. It's totally fine and very much recommended. That's how I started a lot of contracts. The other thing you're going to want to do, if you already sent it out, you already have it delivered, you already have your client signed, sealed, it's done, and then you come back and you're like, oh, I need to do this thing, or even more so, maybe you have an experience with a client and you're like, oh, if this could have been prevented if I had included something in my contract around this. A lot of contracts are what we call living contracts. And not that they're living in terms of they're constantly changing, but your document that you keep on file is a living document because you're going to go in and make changes and improvements to it all along the way so that when it's time to send it out to a customer, you always have the top-notch contract in your file. So you've got this contract. It's already signed. You've signed it. Your clients have signed it. And now it's time to add or take away something to it. So you're going to want to do what's called a contract amendment. When you do a contract amendment, you want to be totally transparent with your client or with whoever the contract is with. And if the contract is with multiple people, you want to have an open documentation and an open conversation with everyone that's involved in the contract. By open documentation, you could do that in one of several ways. You could always get together in person and go over it, but sometimes that can take a lot of time and it's difficult to coordinate schedules. And if you're overseas or even far away from each other geographically, it can be really tough to pull that group of people together live. Another way to do this is through Zoom call. You can totally call people in, Zoom them in, and do a conference call that way and get everyone on board with the contract. That way you'll have the benefit of having it done live and have all your questions answered right away. My favorite way to amend contracts, honestly, is through old school email, you guys. Old school email has a benefit of having everything documented and stored. As long as you don't delete the files, you've got documentation all along the way for any amendments, any comments, any contract changes that need to go through. It's all documented in your email as long as you don't delete it. In fact, I have a separate email folder for all of my contracts, and I have a double backup on my computer for all of the contracts on my hard drive. So everything is duplicated and triplicated in my system because I like backup for backup. If you just have one backup, you don't have backup. So what you're going to need to do when you need to make a contract amendment is create a document that says this is a contract amendment or an amendment to the contract previously signed on this date at this time between these two parties. This is an amendment. I'm going to say that again, an amendment between these two parties or these several parties made on this date and this time. This amendment, just like the amendments that you'd find in the United States, is going to stick with that contract. It now becomes part of the contract. Digitally and physically, it needs to be filed together with the contract. It has now become part of the contract, just like your arms are part of your body. This is all sticking together. When you create that amendment to the contract, you need to detail that it is an amendment and then write down everything in your contract that you want to change, whether it's the date of fulfillment, whether it's the time of fulfillment, whether it's the price, whether it's how the people meet together, whether it's any benefits and features of your program. You're going to want to go into excruciating detail on any changes in your contract. Be very, very specific, even mind-numbingly specific on any changes made to your contract so that it is clear and in writing for all parties involved. Once you've done that, you're going to document that with the contract And I love to use e-signing features like DocuSign, or there's several others out there, but I have that contract amendment signed, just like you would a contract. You're going to have the contract amendment signed, filed with the contract, and put away. File it digitally and always have a physical copy. Now, might sound weird, with the digital age and everything that we do online, and most of the things are stored on our hard drive instead of a physical copy. This is something you're not going to want to skimp on, guys. You always, 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 underline that, always, always, always want to have a physical copy of every digital copy signed. A physical copy signed means you can print it off, means you can scan it later. Maybe something happens to your hard drive. Many of you know what it's like to have your computer crash in the most important part of a transaction. You're going to want to have a physical copy exactly for that reason. Remember what we said about backups. If you don't have a backup for your backup, you don't have any backup. So make sure you have a physical copy of any contracts and their amendments signed and filed together. You're going to want to have that for yourself, and you're going to encourage anyone that your contract is in joint with to have them have a physical copy as well. Any contract changes that you need to make are going to be done digitally. They're going to be done physically. Make sure all parties are involved. You cannot, repeat, cannot make any legal changes to a contract without every party's signature on the contract. On the end, it's pretty simple to make any changes. All you need to do is make sure that you're transparent, make sure everyone involved is there and present, and make sure it's signed, sealed, and delivered right with your contract. It's a very, very simple process, but one that you need to make sure you nail all the specifics of. Now you know everything you need to know about making changes and adjustments and amendments to contracts. Keep in mind that you need to subscribe to get our videos on a daily basis, and we will see you tomorrow.